Hi, in this video, we'll learn how Google Analytics 4 organizes and presents our data using dimensions and metrics. We'll use the Google Merchandise Store GA4 demo account to walk through the reports, and along the way, I'll point out specific tools like adding segments or what's it called comparisons now, or secondary dimensions to deepen our insights. And by the way, Google Merchandise Store is an e-commerce website that sells branded Google products. And it's also a fully functional GA4 demo account. So you can explore real traffic, events, and sales data without needing access to your own website. So what are dimensions and metrics? Dimensions are labels that describe your users and events. They're categorical by nature, like browser type, device category, country, or language, etc. Metrics are the numbers, and they're numerical by nature. They're actual measurements, like how many sessions, purchases, or page views occurred. For example, if the dimension is browser is Chrome, and the corresponding metric might be sessions is 1000. We'll talk about sessions later. In GA4, almost every interaction is treated as an event, so we can track things more flexibly than Universal Analytics, which is an older version of Google Analytics. GA4 is organized into 4 core standard reporting areas. The user reports tells you who your visitors are, including their demographics, device types, and tech preferences. Acquisition reports show how users found your website, whether through search, ads, email, or direct visits, etc. Engagement reports show what users do on your website, like what pages they view, how long they stay, and which events they trigger, etc. And lastly, we have monetization reports that track your revenue, show what products users buy and how much they spend, and what drives those sales. Now let's dive into each section with examples from the Google Merchandise Store demo and talk about several key dimensions and metrics used in these reports. To demonstrate multi-dimensional breakdown, I am using user tag details report, and I'll use browser as the primary dimension, and then I will add the device category as the secondary dimension. So I'm going to show you how I do this. Under the reports, and then I go to user, and under tag, I'm clicking tag details report. And browser is already my primary dimension, and if it's not for you, click the down arrow and then select browser. And then we're going to add a secondary dimension by clicking this plus sign icon next to the primary dimension. And here, let's add device category. So by adding the device category as the secondary dimension, we can see that the browser is sliced down to by the device category, mobile or desktop use. So we can know, we can observe what are the usage for each device type for Chrome and each of the browsers as well. So this is a very helpful slicing tool to use the secondary dimension. Okay, so again, browser is the browser from which user activity originated. Typical browser include Chrome, Edge, Firefox, Internet Explorer, Opera, and Safari. This browser dimension is great for debugging so that you can see which browser your website is working well versus not working well, not compatible, so you can fix the issue. Device category is the type of device from which user activity originated. So device category typically include desktop, mobile, and tablet. And the country is referred to the country from which user activity originated. So for example, if someone visits your website from the United States, the text United States will populate the dimension. There's also language, the name of the language of a user's browser or device. So for example, French, English, etc. So important metrics here include active users. Active users is the number of distinct users who visit your website or app. And by the way, app can also have Google Analytics tracking. The report structures is slightly different and somewhat different in the metrics too. So an active user is any user who has an engaged session or when Analytics collects the first visit event and engagement time parameter from the website. When we talk about apps like this Android app, for example, then we're talking about tracking the first open event and engagement time parameter for the app. Or if we are tracking for iOS app, then we're tracking first open and user engagement event. The next one is the new users. New users is the number of new unique user IDs that log the first open or first visit event. The metrics allow you to measure the number of users who interacted with your website or launched your app for the first time. Let's take a look at acquisition reports. Acquisition reports show how users arrive on your site. Here for demo, I will be using the user acquisition report, and I'll use source medium as the primary dimension, and I will add the device category as the segment, or now it's called comparison in standard GA4 reports. So we can see certain channels perform better on mobile or desktop, which is critical for optimizing campaigns. So now into the reports, select user acquisition reports under acquisition. For the primary dimension, we'll select the first user source medium. We'll add a comparison for the web and mobile traffic. Okay. So here you see a dimension that's first user source medium instead of just simply source medium. This is because you're looking at the user's original entry point, whether they came from the very first time they visit your site, not just their most recent session. So it helps you understand what drove that initial visit that started their journey with you. So for example, if a user first comes with a Google organic and later returns via email newsletter, then for the source medium parameter, the value would be email newsletter because it's this session. And for the first user source medium parameter, the value will be Google organic, which is the original session. So now in here, the key dimension here is the source medium, right? So the source medium is the one that the user was first acquired. So there are many types, as you can see in here. The direct none means the user type your website URL directly or use a bookmark. So there's no identifiable source. Google Organic, this means user find your site by clicking a free search result on Google. So similarly, you will see a Bing Organic, and that means the user find a free find your website through a free search result on Bing. Now there's also Google CPC. CPC stands for cost per click. So the Google CPC means the user clicked a paid ad from your Google Ads campaign. There are many social referral as well. So for example, Facebook's referral means the user clicked the link to your site from Facebook, maybe from a post or share. Instagram referral means the user land on your site from Instagram, such as a bio link or a story swipe up. LinkedIn referral means the user came from a LinkedIn post, article, or company page. YouTube referral means the user clicked a link in the YouTube video or description that led to your site. And then there's email newsletter. That means the user follow a track link in the email newsletter. There's also Twitter referral. The user clicked the link from a tweet or profile on Twitter and coming to your website. There's also newsletter email, and that means the user clicked a tag link in your newsletter identified as email traffic. You also notice that there are some that's labeled as not set or data not available. So those means the user came from a unidentified or untagged source, and GA4 couldn't classify it. So if Facebook CPC has a high volume of users but low engagement or conversion compared to Google Organic, you may want to optimize or relocate the budget. So similarly for the device, we can see, for example, for the direct traffic, the web traffic is less than the mobile traffic. However, if we take a look at their engagement time, the web traffic has a higher, much longer engagement time than the mobile traffic, only 6 seconds. So we need to pay attention to why the direct traffic isn't so much on the mobile traffic, or like focus more on the mobile design, etc., or engagement. And then for the other traffic, the mobile website shares about the same engagement time with the web traffic. Another dimension can be default channel group. The default channel grouping that led to a key event is what this parameter about. So the type can be organic search, direct, paid search. So you will ask, what's the difference between default channel grouping and source medium, because they're very similar. You're right that both of them are used to describe where your traffic comes from, but they serve different purpose and level of detail. Think of source medium as the raw detail origin of your traffic, like Google Organic or Facebook referral. In contrast, default channel grouping is a high-level category that groups similar traffic sources together, like organic search, paid search, email, or social, to make your reports easier to read and analyze. So when you see referral, that's all the referrals bundled together. So in contrast, default grouping is a high-level category, so we can see how different marketing channels are performing without getting lost in the details. So if you want precision, use the source medium, but if you want a big picture view of where your traffic is coming from, default channel grouping is your go-to. So there are also key metrics here. New users. It means the number of the users who interacted with your site or launched your app for the first time. So yes, GA4 can be also used to analyze traffic and user behavior conversion for mobile apps. The report type just a little bit different, and the metrics, there are some difference as well. So returning users are users who have initiated at least one previous session. Both new users and return user metrics are approximations. Notice that in GA4, the total number of users isn't always the exact sum of new and returning users, because those groups are tracked using different methods and scopes. New and returning users are categorized based on cookies and device history, but GA4's total user metrics counts unique users across all sessions. So if the system cannot confidently classify someone, they may still count as a user without being labeled as new or returning. We also see the engagement sessions per active user. So to understand this, we first need to understand what is a session in GA4. So sessions is a metric. It shows the number of sessions that began on your website or application. A session is a period of time during which a user interacts with your website or app. A session initiates when a user either opens your app in the foreground views or views a page or a screen, and no session is currently active. Either such as their previous session has timeout. So by default, a session ends or times out after 30 minutes of user inactivity. There are no limit to how long a session can last. Engaged sessions means the number of sessions that lasted 10 seconds or longer, or had one or more conversion events, or 2 or more page or screen views. Engaged session is the inverse of low engagement sessions, which is another metrics. Average engagement time here is the average time that your website was in the focus in a user browser or an app that was in the foreground of a user's device. Average engaged time equals to total user engagement durations divided by number of active users. Next, we're going to take a look at engagement reports, which check what users do on your website. So for the demo, I'm using the engagements page and screens report. So pages and screens. And I'm going to use the page path and screen class as the primary dimension. Dimension here include the page path and screen class. The page path from a website URL and the screen class from a mobile application. So the page path is the value after the domain. So for example, if someone visits a Google Merchandise Store.com/bags or let's see /apparel, then Google Merchandise Store.com is the domain and apparel is the page path. And you can also configure to use page title, and page title is what you set on your website, so it's more human readable, such as you will say apparel instead of showing the URL. Metrics here include views. Views is the number of mobile app screens or web pages your users saw. Repeated views of a single session or page are counted. And then there's event counts. Event counts the total number of times any event was triggered, like all button clicks, page views, or scrolls. But key events as a different metric, there are specific user actions you've marked as important to your business. Things like purchases, signups, form submissions, or even video plays. So GA4 can treat them as conversions and track them more closely. You can mark any existing or custom events as a key event directly in the GA4 setting. And those events can then be used to track conversions and improve ad targeting. So for example, to check a document download or a video play, you will need to create an event tag, not a filter or dimension. So that is engagement report. Lastly, let's take a look at monetization report, which track e-commerce performance. So here for demo, I'm using monetization e-commerce purchase report using the item name as dimension. So I'm going to monetization, e-commerce purchases, and item name as the dimension. So dimension here include item name, which is the name of an item or product that you sell. So for example, in May, the most viewed product, you can see that this is sorted descending with a down arrow by items viewed. So the most viewed for 1,231 times in May, which is the product called Chrome Dino YouTube Skater Accessory Pack. So if I use the item category, I'm gonna see the category in which you classified an item, such as apparel or accessories. I can also use item ID, and so this is the ID that is specified for an item or a product. So for example, this one we know that is the item ID for Chrome Dino YouTube Skater Accessory Pack. The item viewed, which is the number of the items that the customer viewed. Items added to cart is the number of items added to a shopping cart, not item ID, which is dimension. So make sure it's different. And items purchased is the number of units for a single item, including the purchase events. And items revenue is revenue from a specific product. So if you mouse over, you can see more detailed description as well, particularly useful for new metrics that you encounter and want to understand what it is. So this one, the total revenue from items only minus refunds, excluding tax and shipping. By the way, tax is a transactional level metrics, not event specific. But item discount and item view events are event scope metrics. So we can see now to find deeper insights, you can use tools like secondary dimensions, where we can use to combine multiple views, such as add device category as a secondary dimension to page title, so we can see different behavioral differences. We can use segments, or segments is now only in the exploration reports or comparisons. That's in the standard GA4 reports. We use them to isolate behavior from a specific audience, such as you can add a segment for mobile users or returning users, and this can show how different groups behave. Maybe mobile users drop off more, or desktop users convert better. So to recap, dimensions tell you what or who, metrics show you how much, and GA4's event-based structure provides deep, flexible insights across different reporting areas. So you can explore the GA4 demo account to practice more about combining these elements in your reports. Whether you're looking at browser types, campaign performance, or revenue, it all comes down to understanding the relationship between dimensions and metrics. Finally, GA4 including over 170 building dimensions and more than 230 predefined matrices, giving you very powerful tools to describe and measure user behavior across your website or app. So this covers everything from user attributes to traffic sources to engagement and e-commerce performance. You can also define custom dimensions and metrics tailored to your business goals, making GA4 highly flexible and scalable for reporting. And finally, here's the URL for a complete list of the GA4 analytic dimensions and metrics.